Hey everyone, welcome aboard. I'll do my best to keep this presentation as to the point and practical as possible. First, we're going to start with how safety is built into the culture here at MSC, then get into some of the everyday risks you might run into when gardening, things like heat and sun exposure, hand tools, working around power equipment, ladder safety, and how to move and lift the right way. Goal is just to give you some straightforward reminders so that you can use them out in the field. So, let's see how safety fits into our overall culture here. Safety is just one part of what defines our company culture, but it's an important one. Our culture is the reason people do choose to work with us. It shows up in how we approach the job, the quality we deliver, and how we work together and with others. And then, of course, the investment that we make in our people. Investing in safety is just part of that culture, and it's how we make sure everyone has a clear understanding of the risks that are associated with their job, however small they may be, and the tools and knowledge to avoid and work around those risks. When we do all of that consistently, it creates trust. Internally, it builds confidence among our teams, and externally, our partners and clients see that our crews are trained, professional, and well rounded, whether it's on a construction site or in the garden. And that consistency is what leads to long term relationships and repeat business, and it's what gets everyone home safe at the end of the day. And that all begins with the environment in which we work in. Working outside every day means we deal with a few inherent risks, of course, that can sneak up on us if we're not paying attention. Things like heat illness. It can hit anyone, young, strong, healthy people. Sometimes all it takes is one hot day where your body just cannot keep up with the weather. Other times it's a cumulative thing, like multiple days of high heat. Because heat exhaustion builds, or what they call stacks, day after day, especially if you're not fully rehydrating and recovering after work. You'll generally start with a headache or a nausea or muscle cramps. If it keeps going, you might feel dizzy or confused, maybe a little out of it. If something feels off or someone on your crew doesn't look right, don't hesitate to call 911. It's pretty serious. But the good news is it's preventable. Pay attention to what your body's telling you, pace yourself when it's hot, and stay ahead of water and electrolytes. And don't wait until you're thirsty. Build up your body's reserves when you can so you have them when you need them. Lyme disease is another risk to watch out for, and it's one of those things that can affect everyone differently. For some people, it shows up as fatigue and joint pain. Others, it can cause more serious symptoms like neurological disorders. So wear long clothing, use insect repellent, and check yourself at the end of the day, especially behind the knees and along the waistline and around the ankles. Next would be UV exposure. Sunburn's one thing, but long-term exposure does add up over a career. So protect yourself, whether that's through hats, sunscreen, lightweight clothing. So you're not paying for it years down the road. And then allergies are another risk. So if you carry an EpiPen for bees or other allergies, make sure your crew knows where it is and how to use it. A quick response can make a world of difference. And then I know all of you know how to identify poisonous plants, but just a reminder that the oils from those plants can stick to tools and clothing and even make it home with you. So, and reactions can show up later, and your sensitivity can change year to year. So, never assume you'll react the same way every season. So, that covers the things nature throws at us. Now, let's talk about the stuff we bring to the job ourselves. Hand tools. Simple everyday things, but worth using the right weight. Hand tools are everyday basics of gardening and landscaping, and because we use them so often, it's pretty easy to overlook the safety component of them. So make sure that we're checking things regularly. A cracked handle can snap, leaving you off balance, or with the sharp edge flying towards you. A loose head, like a shovel blade or a rake, can suddenly detach mid-swing, which could injure you or somebody else. And when carrying sharp tools, make sure the pointy end is down and away from your body. So, in order to prevent a puncture wound in the event you were ever to slip and fall on them. And when we're storing tools properly, don't leave them on the ground or leaning where someone could trip on them. We've all seen the classic rake to the face. And sharp tools are safer tools. I know that sounds a bit backwards, but a sharp edge takes less effort, gives you better control, and prevents strain from forcing a dull blade through through the work. So when the task calls for it, we're going to use basic PPE or personal protective equipment. Gloves to protect against blisters, but also pinch points like setting up a ladder, and while gardening isn't usually loud, and hearing and eye protection are provided if you're working near blowers or mowers, trimmers, that sort of thing. And speaking of powered equipment, even though gardeners don't use it as much, you may find yourself working alongside it on shared sites. So if you're on site with powered equipment, the key is being aware of what's happening around you, giving equipment operators plenty of space, and never assume that they see you. And if you need to move into an area in which they're working in, make sure we're making eye contact or signaling first. And then being mindful of trip hazards like extension cords or fuel cans, and clear away any sticks or stones that you may see before equipment starts up. That will prevent projectiles. And then, of course, don't set up ladders or work in areas where those projectiles may be or equipment could reach you. All right, let's shift gears a bit here on one of the biggest risks across all outdoor work. Falls are still the number one cause of injuries at work, and surprisingly, most of them happen just a few feet off the ground. Ladders under 10 feet feel routine, but that's often when people tend to get injured or hurt. The danger is really complacency, because ladders are so common, we stop checking them or we act so quickly. But you got to think of it this way: if you're, say, 5'6" and you fall backwards off a ladder that's 5 feet up, your head is traveling 10.5 feet before it hits the ground. So that's enough to cause some pretty serious head trauma. So slow down and give ladders the respect they deserve. Always inspect before climbing, checking for cracks, bent rungs, or loose hardware, making sure the ladder is sturdy and secure. And when you're on the ladder, keep 3 points of contact at all times: 2 hands and 1 foot, or 2 feet and 1 hand. And don't overreach. If you feel like you're stretching, climb down, move the ladder, and reset. Takes 30 seconds, but it does prevent injuries from happening. And then for orchard ladders, use the arms test. Stand with your toes at the base of the ladder. Extend your arms upward, straight out in front of you. And if your hand should just touch the wrong shoulder height. If you can reach further than that, your ladder's too steep. If you can't reach it, your ladder's too shallow. And then, of course, always set the tripod leg facing uphill so the ladder stays stable on any uneven ground. Ladder safety is really about just slowing down and respecting the basics, even when something feels routine. And it's that same idea that carries over with how we approach repetitive body motion or our body mechanics. Lifting is one of those things we all just do without thinking, and that's usually where injuries creep in. Most strains don't come from one big heavy lift. They build up from lots of smaller repetitive lifts over time. And that's where good body mechanics make all the difference. So strength and safety come from consistent habits. So every time you're lifting, make sure we're getting low and we're squaring up to the object that's being lifted. That means facing that object directly with your feet, shoulders width apart, dropping into a squat, not a hinge, no rounded backs, keeping your chest up, your back straight, again, not arched or rounded, and let your legs do the work. Your power should come from your glutes and thighs, not your lower back. Brace your core, get a good grip, and drive through your heels so you're standing up strong. And then move your feet instead of twisting or reaching. That's when injuries do tend to seek in. Keeping that movement smooth, of course, and close to your body for a good center of gravity that's over your legs. And making a conscious effort to do this until it becomes second nature to you. And don't forget stretching. I mean, our muscles tighten up over time, and little imbalances add up. A few minutes of stretching daily, it's not just for work, but for life, makes a big difference. So, using your body well sets the stage for everything else we do. All right, that wraps up the basics of garden safety. Thank you all for your patience. At the core, safety is about having the awareness to recognize potential risks and the know-how to work around them before they become a problem. It's not about memorizing any OSHA regulations or rule book. It's about applying common sense, staying alert, and looking out for each other so everyone get home safe at the end of the day. And like anything that works well, safety is a shared responsibility. So the company invests in the training, the tools, and the protocols. It's on all of us to put those into practice in the field. Have a great day.